What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and welcome to Hype Train. This is a new show that we have here on Pop Culture Explained, right? This show is designed to run over like rumors and all that kind of stuff, right? Enough to get you guys all hyped and everything for stuff that's coming later on down the line. Now, here's the thing: Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to give us Young Avengers. How do I know? Okay, check this out, right? This is crazy. This is a crazy thing. All right, so the first question we have to ask here is, who are the Young Avengers, right? So the Young Avengers consisted of about 6 people, right? You had Billy Kaplan, you had Cassie Lang, you had Teddy Altman, also known as Hulkling, you had Iron Lad, Kate Bishop, and you had Eli Bradley, who went by the name Patriot. So the whole idea behind the Young Avengers is they were technically an unsanctioned superhero team. What this meant was that in the aftermath of everything that had gone on with regards to like Civil War and Avengers Disassembled and all that kind of stuff, that a young group of kids basically picked up the mantle, right? Especially after Avengers Disassembled. Those of you guys who don't know, Avengers Disassembled was a story that led into House of M. So basically Scarlet Witch went nuts, but one of the things that she did is she had manipulated Tony Stark to make him look drunk in front of the United Nations, I think it was, and the result was that the stock value of Stark Industries just plummeted. And because Tony Stark was the one who bankrolled the Avengers, he couldn't afford to do it anymore. So he basically had to stop funding the team. The team couldn't really operate as a team anymore because they didn't have any money, so they basically disbanded. You think they would have opened like a GoFundMe account or something like that, but like they didn't, right? They didn't have any money. So the result of that is the Young Avengers basically stepped up as like these young kids who were like, well, if we don't have Avengers proper, then we'll just go forward and we'll fight villains and various people and things like that and just call ourselves the Young Avengers. It wasn't until the aftermath of House of M and a story called The Children's Crusade that the Young Avengers were actually recognized by the Avengers as an actual team. Okay, so how do I think that we're going to end up getting this team? All right, so we know the Avengers in the traditional sense don't really exist anymore in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They kind of do, but they kind of don't, right? Tony Stark's dead. Captain America Steve Rogers is aged up. Falcon, like Sam Wilson, doesn't want to be Captain America. We saw that from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Neither does Bucky Barnes, right? So there really is no Captain America at the moment. I mean, I guess there is if you take into account John Walker, US Patriot, but like he's a poor man's Captain America and he's obviously not going to keep the role forever. I've got my own theory about him because I think his story arc is going to be amazing. Black Widow's basically dead, right? She's died. She's out of the equation now, gone. Like we're not going to see her anymore unless for some reason they decide to bring her back. You do have Hawkeye, but he's seemingly more or less retired. Nick Fury's running Sword. So like there really isn't an Avengers team anymore. So they're going to need another Avengers team. Now here's a cool thing to keep in mind. The Sokovia Accords are still in effect. It's very easy to forget about those or to believe that they were somehow nixed in the aftermath of like the events of Endgame and like everybody vanishing and all that kind of stuff. No, the Sokovia Accords from Civil War, which basically govern how superheroes can and cannot function, those are still law. Those still exist out there. And so when the Sokovia Accords were introduced, they were more or less imposed on the original Avengers team, which led to the events of Civil War. And so wouldn't it be interesting if we got something that was akin to like the Initiative from Marvel Comics thrown into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Here's the Initiative, right? A lot of you guys probably don't know what that is. In Marvel Comics, in the original Civil War event, that whole story more or less followed in terms of ideology what you saw in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Tony Stark believed that superheroes needed to be registered and needed to be monitored by the government. Otherwise, the government would just crack down on them entirely and you would more or less get Days of Future Past. Captain America didn't believe so. Captain America was like, no, freedom, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. And so what ended up happening is the bad guys, quote unquote, won. Reed Richards, Hank Pym, Ant-Man, Tony Stark, the guys who were in favor of registration, they essentially came out on top, right? Captain America surrendered himself at the end of the Civil War comic, and then that was basically it. Then he died a little while later in the death of Captain America storyline. And so what you got in the aftermath of that was something called the 50-State Initiative. And this was essentially an event whereby new superheroes would be trained to basically have Avengers in all 50 states, but they were government sanctioned and they were trained at different locations. You had the quote unquote main Avengers training facility, but then they were like kind of sent out into other states and they sort of trained based on like the laws of those states and different things along those lines. If you're going to create the Young Avengers, the best way to do this would be to basically say, okay, so like we're going to have young people that we notice have powers, we realize how capable they are. We can't have a Scarlet Witch situation where someone's got these insane levels of power and then just sort of runs awry, and that's basically it. So we are going to basically take these young people with these extraordinary abilities if they choose to do so, and we're going to train them to become superheroes. They're going to become the Young Avengers. And then once they finish their training, they go forward into the United States, serving in whatever capacity we want them to serve. But I'm not saying it's going to be an exact 50-state initiative thing, but like that's basically what you're going to get. Now, the cool thing is that we already see a lot of these guys here, right? A lot of the characters that'll be part of the new Avengers already exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? You start with Billy Kaplan and with Tommy Kaplan, or really you can just kind of go with like Billy and Tommy Maximoff. We saw them quote unquote disintegrate or disappear when Wanda undid everything at the end of WandaVision, but then we heard their voices in the post-credit scene. I think Wanda subconsciously brought them back. But if you have kids who are the children of what is arguably the most powerful being to have ever existed on Earth, the quote-unquote Scarlet Witch, then it makes perfect sense that they would be inducted into the Young Avengers, trained on how to use their powers, and then go forward accordingly. You've got Cassie Lang. Cassie Lang's the daughter of Scott Lang. We know that she's a teenager now because we saw her in Avengers Endgame when Scott Lang returned home and then his daughter answered the door and then they hugged and there was that nice little moment and all that kind of stuff. But she's the perfect age to be part of the Young Avengers now. You've got, well, we don't really have Kate Bishop. We know she exists and we know that like we're going to get her character. That's been confirmed by the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For the guys who don't know, Kate Bishop was the second version of Hawkeye. You had Clint Barton and then you had Kate Bishop. A lot of people speculated it was going to be Clint's daughter. That's probably not going to happen, but we're going to actually get Kate Bishop. In terms of Iron Lad, he's Nathaniel Richards, basically a version of Reed Richards' dad who kind of exists across the whole universe in different time periods. It's really weird and confusing. Doesn't matter. We have not seen him yet. Teddy Altman, also known as Hulkling, we have not seen him, but there's no reason to believe that we won't. Teddy Altman, his father was a Kree and his mother was a Skrull. Now we know from the Captain Marvel film that like the Kree and the Skrull are not friends, right? They're not besties, but as with any major conflict, like there's going to be situations where you have a member of one race and a member of another, where while their race is at war with each other, the two of them fall in love, right? It's like the old Romeo and Juliet story kind of thing, right? You know, two warring families and somehow, you know, a member of each family falls in love and it's a forbidden love, you know, all that kind of stuff. Whatever the form is, it'd be very easy for us to get Hulkling if we haven't gotten him already, right? Because we saw that like the whole Kree and the Skrull concept was brought in Captain Marvel. That took place during the 90s. Is it really outside the realm of possibility that like a Kree and a Skrull found each other, fell in love, knocked some boots and popped out a kid? I don't really think it is, right? And if that's the case, if it happened around that time, then that means Hulkling would be around 20, 25 years old at this moment. So he's a little too old to be a Young Avenger, but if you kind of back that up and say that, hey, like the Kree and the Skrulls, right? They met at a bar somewhere and you know, they were listening to Shakira. One thing led to another. They had a few drinks and before you knew it, you know, it was a one-night stand. You know, it happens sometimes, you know, she got preggers and, you know, now we got Hulkling. That's entirely possible, right? Not outside the realm of possibility. Eli Bradley, Patriot, is one of the coolest things, right? That ties directly into Steve Rogers. Those of you guys who don't know about this, the idea is that in Marvel Comics, following Steve Rogers being frozen in ice and presumed to have been dead, the federal government tried over and over and over again to make new super soldiers. What you got was an instance whereby they snatched up 300 African-American soldiers in Mississippi and then subjected them to a series of serum enhancements and training processes designed to create a new Captain America. It was pretty gruesome. Only a handful of them survived, one of which was Eli Bradley's grandfather. The result was that these enhancements he passed down through each generation. And so the father of Eli Bradley enlisted in Vietnam. Eli Bradley himself has all these super soldier enhancements as well. That's how he becomes Patriot, right? He's just like teenage version of Captain America, more or less. You guys see how the stage is set for all this stuff? It's not outside the realm of possibility. So I think that what you're going to end up getting here at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even if it's only in a post-credit scene or something kind of built up over the course of the show, is you're going to have this sort of situation where Sam Wilson officially steps into the role as Captain America, right? That's his story arc for this whole season. I guarantee it, right? The first episode sets the fact that like he doesn't want that role. It's basically Carol Danvers from Captain Marvel from the Kelly Sue DeConnick run. If you guys never read that, all that really happened is you had a guy by the name of Captain Marvel, right? Now, after he died, you had Monica Rambeau, who played Spectrum, who eventually took on the mantle of Captain Marvel, and then she got rid of it when she became like Photon and then Spectrum. And so what you ended up having was Carol Danvers, who essentially met with Steve Rogers, Captain America, and he's like, you should be the new Captain Marvel. And she's like, no, I don't want to take that role, right? That belongs to Marvel. And then essentially she ends up taking it anyway, right? She kind of steps into this iconic role that fate, I guess, was meant for her, and then she officially becomes Captain Marvel, right? That whole run was by Kelly Sue DeConnick. It was amazing. That's basically what's going on with Sam Wilson, right? Sam Wilson is just like, I don't want to be Captain America, right? That's an iconic name and an iconic role, and I'm not ready for that, you know? And the whole story arc for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be, at the end of the series, he's going to officially become Captain America, right? Step into the role, right? If that's the case, like when that happens, all it's going to be is, okay, so like now that I'm Captain America, we need a new Avengers team. Roll credits, right? That's what you're going to get, right? And so it's going to be like the Young Avengers, essentially. It's entirely possible that we get this. You'll see new Avengers come out of that, but we've already been told by the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to set up 3 new titles, right? 3 new projects. I guarantee one of them is going to be the Young Avengers, and this show is going to start setting it up. With that being said, guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about this idea for a show, and I will catch you all later. Peace.